Level 1. Why potatoes are the best first crop. Most people overthink their first garden. They research soil amendments, companion planting, pH charts, and then plant tomatoes that die in July. Here's the smarter move. Potatoes grow in bad soil. They grow in buckets. They grow when nobody's paying attention. One seed potato turns into 10, 15, sometimes 20 potatoes depending on how you grow it. No other vegetable gives that kind of return with that little entry requirement. If you can dig a hole and pour water, you can grow potatoes. That's the whole skill floor, and here's the part. Most beginners don't realize the process teaches you everything. Soil texture, moisture management, plant timing. Potatoes show you all of it through one crop, one season. Start here. Get them in the ground. Let the results tell you what to learn next. Level 2. Picking the right potato for how you eat. Here's something nobody tells you at the garden center. The variety you plant determines the meal you can cook, not just the harvest you get. Waxy potatoes like red Pontiac or Charlotte hold their shape after cooking. They're firm, slightly glossy, and they work beautifully for boiling, salads, and roasting whole. Starchy potatoes like russet are completely different. Fluffy, absorbent, they fall apart in exactly the right way for mashing, baking, and frying. Most people grab whatever's available and then wonder why their roasties turn mushy or their mash has a gluey texture. That's not a technique problem. That's a variety problem. Match the potato to what you actually want on the plate, and half the cooking battle is already won before anything goes in the ground. One decision, made before planting, changes everything at the table. Level 3. That sprouting potato sitting on your kitchen counter looks ready to plant, and that's exactly what makes this mistake so easy to make. Most grocery store potatoes are treated with a chemical sprout inhibitor. It keeps them looking fresh on the shelf. That same chemical fights against germination in the ground. It slows the plant down quietly, throws off your timing, and can silently underperform the whole crop without any visible explanation. Certified seed potatoes are grown specifically for planting. They're untreated, selected for strong germination, and come with a clean disease history. The cost difference is small. The performance difference is not. Get seed potatoes from a garden center or a reputable seed supplier. The grocery store potato belongs on the plate, not in the bed. Level 4. The terminology that changes everything. There's one concept that separates growers who get average yields from growers who consistently outperform, and most people have never heard of it. Determinate potatoes grow all their tubers in one layer near the base of the plant. Hill them higher, add more soil, do everything right, and they still only produce at that one level. Done. Indeterminate potatoes work differently. They keep producing new tubers along the buried stem as the plant grows taller. Bury more stem, get more potatoes. That's the entire principle. Why does this matter so much? Because if you're planning to use a tower, a deep planting method, or aggressive hilling through the season, you need an indeterminate variety for any of that effort to pay off. Plant the wrong type and all that extra work produces nothing extra. Know what you're planting before you decide how to grow it. Level 5. The pre-sprouting step. Most people skip chitting sounds like a made-up word. It isn't. And the growers who do it consistently outpace the ones who don't, especially in colder climates. All it means is letting your seed potatoes develop short sprouts before they go in the ground. Put them in an egg carton with most of the eyes pointing upward and set them somewhere cool and bright, not warm, not dark, about 4 to 6 weeks before your planned planting date. When those eyes push out sprouts about an inch long, the potato is ready. A seed potato with established sprouts hits the ground already working. For cold climate growers with short seasons, that head start can compress your time to harvest by a meaningful margin. In warmer climates with long seasons, it matters less, but it costs nothing but a few weeks of patience. For main crop varieties especially, this habit is worth building early. Level 6. What the soil actually needs, potatoes will grow in hard clay. They'll grow in neglected beds. They've been used for generations to break in difficult ground nobody else wanted to plant in. But there's one thing they genuinely need: loose soil. Because they're developing underground, compacted ground physically limits how large tubers can get. It squeezes the formation process before it even starts. So before planting, loosen the top 8 to 10 inches with a fork or a shovel. Not a full soil overhaul, just enough to break up hard chunks and give the roots room to move. Work in some compost if available. It improves drainage, adds organic matter, and provides a gentle nutritional base. Potatoes prefer a slightly acidic soil, around pH 5.0 to 6.0. Avoid fresh manure. Heavy nitrogen fertilizers grow impressive foliage and disappointing yields. Balance matters more than intensity here. Level 7. The classic trench method, and why it still wins. Every few years, a new growing trend comes along claiming to replace the trench method, and every few years, the trench method quietly outperforms most of them. Dig 6 to 8 inches deep. Place seed potatoes with eyes facing up about 12 inches apart. Cover and wait. When plants push 6 inches above the soil surface, mound soil up around the stems, burying everything except the top leaves. That's hilling, and it does two things simultaneously. It creates more underground stem length for new stolons to branch from, and it covers developing tubers so they don't turn green from sunlight exposure. Repeat the hilling once or twice more through the season. In a 7-method grow experiment, 5 trench-planted potatoes produced 72 potatoes at 11 pounds total. That's more than 2 pounds per plant, the highest combined yield of any method tested. The classic approach exists for a reason. Level 8. Container growing done. Right container growing solves the space problem completely, but it introduces a different set of problems that most guides don't mention until after something goes wrong. With a 5-gallon bucket, drainage is non-negotiable. No drainage holes means water pools at the base, the soil stays saturated, and the potato rots underground before it has a chance to establish. Drill at least 5 or 6 holes in the base before anything goes in. Start with the bucket half full, plant one potato about 2 to 3 inches deep, and add more soil as the plant grows toward the rim. Grow bags are more forgiving on drainage because the fabric breathes naturally, but they dry out faster, which means consistent watering becomes the job. Both methods work well when properly managed. Both disappoint when treated the same as an in-ground bed. The container changes the rules. Grow accordingly. Level 9. The no-dig method. Real results, real trade-offs. The idea behind the Ruth Stout method sounds almost too simple to be serious. Lay seed potatoes on the soil surface, cover with hay or straw, walk away, come back at harvest. No trenching, no hilling, no digging to collect. Just pull back the straw and there are the potatoes. The mulch holds moisture, insulates the soil, and blocks sunlight from reaching the tubers. It works. But here's what the method doesn't advertise. Potatoes sitting near the surface are easy to find for every pest in the garden. Raccoons, skunks, and pillbugs all showed up in testing and caused visible damage. Without proper burial depth, some plants established slowly or unevenly. The results were decent, around 43 potatoes, but quality suffered from heat exposure and pest activity. This method suits first and second early varieties that don't respond to hilling anyway. For main crop varieties, something deeper produces better results. Level 10. Why planting deeper than recommended actually works. Here's something that almost nobody talks about, and the data on it is genuinely surprising. Most guides say plant 6 inches deep. That's the standard recommendation. But in a controlled side-by-side experiment, a single potato planted at 12 inches deep outperformed one planted at 6 inches by a significant margin. The 12-inch potato produced 24 tubers at 3 pounds 9 ounces. The 6-inch potato produced 10 tubers at around 2.5 pounds. Same variety, same care, same season. The difference comes down to underground stem length. A potato buried deeper starts with more stem below the soil surface. More buried stem means more sites for stolons to branch off. More stolons means more potatoes, without any additional hilling required. If the growing season is long enough to support a main crop variety, planting deeper than conventional wisdom suggests is one of the easiest yield upgrades available. Level 11. Stretching your seed. Potato budget. A large seed potato with 6 or 8 eyes isn't just one planting opportunity, it's 2 or 3. Cut it into pieces, make sure each piece has at least 2 eyes, and each one grows into a full plant. That's one purchase doing the work of 3. But here's the step most people skip that causes the whole thing to fail. After cutting, the pieces need to sit in a cool, shaded spot for 2 to 3 days before going in the ground. That resting time lets the cut surface dry and form a callus, a protective layer that seals the wound and prevents rot in damp soil. Skip that step, and the cut face stays moist, hits wet soil, and rots before a sprout ever forms. Dust the cut surfaces with wood ash or garden lime for extra insurance if desired. The yield comparison between a cut piece and a whole potato at the same depth is genuinely close. More plants, same result per plant, lower cost per harvest. Level 12. Watering, the window that actually matters. Potatoes are more sensitive to water timing than most crops, and the window where it matters most is one most growers don't know to watch for. Consistent moisture right after planting helps with establishment, but the critical period is during tuber formation, which starts roughly 6 to 8 weeks in and usually lines up with the plant beginning to flower. Inconsistent watering during that window causes hollow heart, a hollow cavity that forms inside the potato, or knobby, misshapen tubers that look like something went wrong underground. In-ground potatoes have surrounding soil to buffer fluctuations. Container and tower setups don't. They're exposed on all sides and dry from the outside in. Check containers every 2 days in warm weather. Water at the base, not the foliage. Wet leaves and humid conditions invite blight. Even moisture consistently delivered. That's the whole job. Level 13. The 2 threats that can wipe a crop. 2 problems will eventually show up in any potato bed, and knowing them before they arrive is the difference between a lost crop and a managed one. Colorado potato beetles are the more manageable of the 2. Check the undersides of leaves regularly for orange egg clusters. Crush them before they hatch. Adults are slow and easy to handpick. The real danger is larvae, They strip a plant in days if left unchecked. Rotate beds year to year so beetle populations and soil-borne disease don't accumulate in the same spot. Blight is the bigger threat. It spreads fast in warm, wet conditions, moves from foliage to tuber, and once it's established, the plant is finished. Grow blight-resistant varieties in wet climates. Keep foliage dry. Ensure airflow between plants. If blight appears, remove the affected plant immediately, bin it, and don't compost it. These two problems are manageable. Ignored, they're not. Level 14, the Amish tower method and why it works. Most growers hill their potatoes once or twice and stop there. What Amish farming communities figured out, and what home gardeners are only beginning to catch up with, is that stopping the hilling early leaves most of the plant's yield potential completely untapped. The tower method keeps hilling aggressively through the entire season, burying stem length at 3 to 4 separate levels and multiplying tuber production at each one. Build the structure from welded wire fencing, about 12.5 feet long, formed into a 4-foot cylinder. Set it in full sun. Line the base with straw, fill it with 6 inches of compost and straw mix, and place 4 to 5 seed potato pieces on top with eyes facing up. Cover and water. Every time shoots reach 8 to 10 inches above the surface, add another 4 to 6 inch layer and bury most of the green growth. Repeat 3 to 4 times. Expected first-year yield from 4 square feet, 40 to 60 pounds. Experienced growers report 80 to 100. Level 15, the straw-only mound. No structure, serious yield. The wire tower produces impressive results, but there's a version of the same principle that requires no building, no materials beyond straw, and about 20 minutes of setup. Lay 4 to 5 seed potato pieces directly on bare ground in a roughly 2 by 2 foot square. Cover with 8 inches of loose straw. That's the entire starting setup. When shoots push up through the straw 8 to 10 inches, pile on another thick layer, burying most of the green growth and leaving just the top few inches exposed. Repeat this 3 to 4 more times through the season, building a mound about 2.5 feet tall by the end. The straw keeps developing tubers in complete darkness, holds moisture better than expected, and stays structured through harvest. Pull the straw apart at the end and potatoes sit at every level, clean, undamaged, no digging required. A single mound yields around 50 pounds. Add a handful of balanced organic fertilizer to each new straw layer and that number climbs significantly. Level 16. Harvesting, curing, and storing the right way. Most of the growing work happens underground and out of sight, and so does most of the storage damage if the final steps get rushed. For main crop potatoes, wait until the foliage has fully yellowed and died back naturally. That visible dieback is the signal that the plant has finished its work and the tubers have hardened their skins for storage. Harvest too early and those skins are still thin. The potatoes bruise easily, break down faster, and won't last in storage the way they should. After digging, cure the potatoes in a dry, dark, ventilated space for about 2 weeks. This hardens the skin further, seals any small cuts from harvest, and dramatically extends storage life. Then move them to a cool, dark location, ideally between 7 and 10 degrees Celsius. Properly cured and stored, main crop potatoes keep 6 to 8 months. One summer of growing feeds a table through winter. That's the full return on everything that came before it.